There was a time when Yahoo was the internet. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, millions of people began their experience of the web there. Mail, news, search, sports, finance, weather. Yahoo was not just a popular website. It was one of the main gateways into the digital world. And that is what makes this story so surprising. How does a company standing at the front door of the internet end up losing almost everything? How does a brand known across the world become a symbol of missed opportunity? The answer is not that Yahoo made one single catastrophic mistake. In fact, the most interesting part of this story is that Yahoo did not collapse in one day, or because of one decision. Again and again, the company found itself standing next to the future, next to search, next to digital advertising, next to social media, next to the ideas that would later define the modern internet. And yet, each time, Yahoo seemed unable to take the decisive step. This is the story of a company that had almost everything it needed to become the undisputed leader of the digital age. And still, it lost to companies it could have outgrown, acquired, or simply kept from getting ahead. In the mid-1990s, the internet was not the clean, convenient world of apps, search engines, and social networks that we know today. It was closer to a chaotic pile of links. More and more websites were appearing. But how were people supposed to make sense of it all? Where were they supposed to click? How were they supposed to find anything useful? And that was exactly when Yahoo appeared, in the right place, at exactly the right time. At first, it was simply a directory of websites created by two Stanford students, Jerry Yang and David Philo. They were not trying to build an empire in the usual sense. They were just trying to bring order to a rapidly expanding internet. And that was Yahoo's real strength. As the internet became more and more complicated, Yahoo made it feel understandable. It was as if the company was telling users, "Don't worry, we already organized everything for you. Want news? Here's the section. Want sports? Here's the section. Want finance, weather, entertainment, or mail? It is all gathered in one place." Today, that may sound ordinary. Back then, it was almost the perfect solution. People did not want infinite choice. They wanted a guide, and Yahoo became exactly that. Very quickly, the company turned into one of the most recognizable brands of the new digital era. For millions of people, Yahoo was not just a website. It was the internet's home page, and that was the source of its early power. Yahoo did not force users to figure out where to begin. It gave them a ready-made point of entry, and in the early internet, that meant a great deal. One of the problems with many big companies is that they become powerful too early and start confusing early success with permanent advantage. Yahoo grew exactly that way. By the end of the 1990s, the company was no longer just a convenient web directory. It was turning into a massive internet portal, a place where users could spend almost their entire day without ever needing to leave. Mail, news, chat, sports, finance, entertainment, search. Yahoo wanted to give people everything at once. And for a while, that strategy really worked. That was the temptation. Why be the best at one thing when you can become the main entry point to everything? Why send users somewhere else when you can keep them inside your own ecosystem? On paper, it looked brilliant. The longer people stayed on Yahoo, the more ads they saw. The more services Yahoo packed inside the platform, the more dependent users became on it. And investors loved that. During the dot-com boom, Yahoo looked like one of the symbols of the new economy. The internet was only beginning to reshape the world, and it seemed as if Yahoo had already secured the perfect position. It was recognizable, massive, convenient, and most importantly, it had already captured the attention of millions. But this was also where the future problem began. Yahoo wanted to be everything at once. A media company, a technology platform, a portal, a search engine, a mail service, an entertainment hub. From the outside, that looked like strength. Inside, it was slowly becoming blur. While Yahoo was expanding in every direction, the internet itself was changing. And before long, it became clear that in the new world, being a little bit of everything was no longer as powerful as being the best at one thing. There is one mistake big companies make again and again. They assume the market will keep evolving according to the same rules that helped them win in the first place. Yahoo had won in an era when people needed a guide to the web, but the internet was never going to remain a directory forever. It was becoming too big, too fast, too chaotic for anyone to sort it by hand into neat folders. And that is when a different idea entered the scene. Not, we will show you where to go, but just type what you need, and we will find it better than anyone else. That idea was search, real search, fast search, intelligent search. And this is where Yahoo began to lose its footing. The company still looked at the internet as a set of sections, services, and pages through which users could be gently guided. But the new internet no longer needed a guide. It needed a perfect navigator. Users no longer wanted to browse through directories. They wanted an instant answer. That feels obvious today. But at the time, for Yahoo, it was almost a philosophical collision. Yahoo had built its business around one idea: stay with us as long as possible. But the future of the internet was moving toward a different one. Get your answer as fast as possible and move on. And inside that difference was almost everything. Yahoo was still an enormous brand, but the ground beneath it had already begun to shift. This is what makes Yahoo's story especially painful. The company did not lose to Google because it had never heard of it. It was right there, very close. For a time, Yahoo even used Google's search technology. In other words, it was standing next to the very tool that would later reshape the entire internet. And that leads to the central question of this chapter. How can a company look directly at the future and still fail to recognize the threat inside it? The answer is uncomfortable, but fairly simple. Yahoo never treated search as the heart of its business. To Yahoo, search was just one service inside a much larger portal ecosystem. Useful, necessary, but not central. For Google, search was everything. That was the difference in mindset. Yahoo was thinking, how do we fit search into our bigger system? Google was thinking, how do we make search so good that everything else can be built around it? The company for which a field is just one priority among many usually loses to the company for which that field is a matter of life and death. And that is exactly what happened. While Yahoo spread its attention across news, mail, ads, media, and dozens of internal products, Google kept improving one thing with obsessive precision: the quality of search. At first, that may not have looked especially dangerous, but then it suddenly became clear that one perfectly executed function could be stronger than an entire overloaded portal. And that was not just a blow to Yahoo's product, it was a blow to the company's entire logic. It would be too convenient to say that Yahoo lost simply because Google had a better algorithm. Yes, technology mattered. But the real problem went deeper. Yahoo was increasingly becoming a company that no longer fully understood what it wanted to be. And that is a very dangerous state, because when a company does not know what it is, it starts bouncing between different roles. At one moment, Yahoo wanted to be a media giant, then a technology platform, then an advertising machine, then an all-purpose internet hub. Each one of those roles might have been strong on its own, but together, they created confusion. What should be improved first? Where should the best talent and resources be invested? Which team inside the company is actually shaping the future? When there is no clear answer to those questions, strategy begins to dissolve. Instead of one clear move forward, you get a set of compromises. Instead of one bold bet, you get cautious half steps. Instead of leadership, you get constant reaction to someone else's success. That was happening to Yahoo more and more. It remained large. It remained recognizable. It remained influential. But inside, it no longer looked like a company with one clear idea about the future. And unfortunately for Yahoo, the internet was entering a phase where the winners were the companies with ruthless focus. Over time, something close to a legend began to form around Yahoo. Not the legend of a great winner, the legend of a company that kept finding itself next to enormous opportunities and letting them slip away. The most famous example, of course, is Google. Yahoo could have bought it relatively early, back when the numbers did not yet seem astronomical, but it did not. Later, a similar aura formed around Facebook, and even if each case has its own details, the overall image became hard to ignore. Yahoo seemed to keep seeing the big waves, but never quite committed to riding them, and that is dangerous for more than one reason. Because over time, missed opportunities begin to reshape the internal psychology of a business. When a company passes on decisive moves again and again, hesitation becomes part of the culture. It gets used to watching rather than leading, to observing the market rather than defining it, to discussing the future rather than building it. And at some point, it is no longer a series of accidents. It becomes character. Yahoo did not collapse overnight. It slowly turned into a company that still looked large from the outside, but had less and less influence over the direction of the internet itself. And that may be one of the most dangerous kinds of decline. When you still exist, but you have already stopped mattering. One of the most deceptive things in business is size. When a company is big, it feels as if it has time, resources, an audience, the right to make mistakes. But in technology, size often does not protect you. It slows you down. Yahoo was big at exactly the moment the internet began demanding speed, clarity, and product obsession. And large structures rarely reinvent themselves well. They have too many internal interests, too many directions, too many reasons not to break what already exists. As a result, a smaller but intensely focused company can become more dangerous than an entire digital empire. Yahoo learned that the hard way. It did not start losing because it had no users, not because nobody knew the brand, not because it lacked money. It started losing because it had become too heavy, too blurred, and too uncertain about its own future. Sometimes a company is not destroyed by weakness. It is destroyed by the strength that once made it great, but no longer fits the new world. In the end, Yahoo did not disappear in a single moment. There was no one dramatic day when the lights simply went out. And maybe that is exactly why this story is so interesting. Yahoo's decline was long, slow, and deeply instructive. The company did not just lose a competitive battle. It gradually lost the right to shape what the internet would become next. And yet there was a time when the opposite was true. Yahoo once stood at the entrance to the digital age. It saw the web growing. It saw where people's attention was moving. It saw new patterns of user behavior emerging. But seeing is not enough. You can be first. You can be famous. You can be enormous. But if you do not understand your central bet, the market will eventually move past you. And that may be the main lesson of Yahoo. Companies rarely die only because of external enemies. Much more often, they lose themselves from within. When they stop understanding what truly makes them indispensable. Yahoo was too big to disappear quickly, but not focused enough to win in the new era. And that is why today it is remembered not as the king of the internet, but as one of the clearest warnings in the history of technology. A reminder that even when you are standing at the door to the future, you can still fail to walk through it.